He'd sent the email to the late Arnold Greiner, the dead letter office, so to speak. Chapter 81.
To A. Greiner at latimes.com. From Mary Smith. To the one who will be next. We've already met, you and I, so how about that? Do you remember? I do. You gave me an autograph the other day, and you were so full of your perky, charming mannerisms. You seemed so approachable, so down to earth. I don't want to say where we met, but you wouldn't remember anyway. I told you how much I liked your movies, and you smiled as though I hadn't said anything at all. It reminded me of how invisible I can be to you people. It wasn't the first time you looked right through me either. You didn't see me at the daycare yesterday, or at the gym today. Not that I'd really expect you to. It's like I'm the opposite of you in every way. Is that a clue I smell burning? Everyone knows who you are, and no one knows who I am. I'm not famous, or movie star beautiful, or any of the things you are. I don't have flawless skin, or a trademark grin. By all reports, you are a better mother than Patsy Bennett was, a better actress than Antonia Schiffman, a better wife than Marty Lowenstein Bell, and surely more famous than that up-and-comer Susie Cartulas. You are exactly who they mean when they say she has everything. You do, and I'll bet that you know it, even if you forget from time to time. There's only one thing I have that you don't. I know something. I know that by noon, 2 days from now, you'll be dead. You'll have a bullet in your brain and a face that no one could recognize. Not even your own beautiful children. Not even the adoring public that flocks to your films. But I didn't tell you any of that when we met. I just smiled, almost curtsied, and thanked you for being you. I walked away, knowing that the next time you look at me, it will be in a different way. Next time, I won't be invisible. I promise you that much. And I keep my promises. Just ask Arnold Greiner.
Chapter 82. What do we think about this? Van Allsburg asked the room, and then he stared directly at me. You have more cases like this one than anyone else here. What's going on? What is she up to now? I just went ahead and said it. She wants to be caught. I felt I needed to stand to address the group. Most likely, this is a person who feels completely isolated. The reaction to eliminate the people she fixates on is paradoxical. She, he, or it destroys what she can't have. Over time, it's making her feel worse. Some part of Mary may know that and doesn't want to do this anymore, but she lacks the self-control to stop on her own. And the latest email? Fred asked. Another sign that the killer is conflicted. Maybe the conscious mind believes it's taunting the authorities while the subconscious is drawing a map for us to follow. That's the only thing I can come up with that makes sense of what's happened, and I'm not even sure if it makes sense. What about the counter possibility, asked David Fujishiro, that she's trying to deliberately mislead us, throw us off with fiction? You're right. That is a real possibility, I said. And what it leaves us with is every conceivable outcome except what's in the email. I think we have an obligation to take the message at face value first and consider the alternative second. But David has just stated the other logical possibility. Of course, we don't know if she's logical. Several agents, including my buddy Page, scribbled notes while I spoke. I was aware of my stature here, if not exactly comfortable with it. Do we know what LAPD's doing with this? I'm talking about the latest threat, asked an agent in the back, one of several faces I had never seen before. I looked over to Van Allsburg for a response. They've got a very large internal task force up and running. That much we know for sure. They're working on a database of potential targets, but you take every name above the title actress in this town, even just sticking to the ones with families, and you've got a long list on your hands. Plus, LAPD's going to be a little trigger-shy about the panic factor. Outside of increased patrols and some awareness raising, there's not a hell of a lot they can do for all of these women and their families, except keep after Mary Smith. Someone has to catch her. And you know what? I want it to be us, not LAPD. Chapter 83.
Disneyland was chock full of ironies for any good mother. The happiest place on earth, the brochures called it. And maybe it could be. But with the large, electric crowds, it also had to be one of the easiest places to lose a child. Mary tried not to give in to her worry. Worrying just makes bad things happen. Worrywarts are the saddest people in the world. I should know. Besides, this day was supposed to be about fun and family. Brendan and Ashley had been looking forward to it for, forever and a day. Even little Adam was bucking up and down in his stroller, squealing with a wordless excitement. Mary kept close watch on her older two as they led the way along Main Street, USA, with its candy-colored shops and other attractions. Each of them held one side of a park map. This was adorable, since neither of them knew what they were looking at. Ever since Adam was born, they liked to play at being older. "What do you want to do first, my three little pumpkins?" she asked them. "We're here. We're finally at Disney, just like I promised." "Everything," Ashley said breathlessly. She watched, slack-jawed, as Goofy, the real Goofy, went ambling past on Main Street. Brendan pointed to a little boy about his own age wearing Mickey Mouse ears, with Matthew embroidered across the brim. "Can we get those?" he asked hopefully. "Can we please, please, please?" "No, I'm sorry, sweetie. Mommy doesn't have enough money for that. Not this trip. Next time for sure." She wondered suddenly why she hadn't thought to pack sandwiches. The trip to Disney was going to cost far more than she could afford. If something went wrong at home between now and her next paycheck, she'd be in deep doo-doo. But that was just more to worry about. "Stop, not today. Don't ruin everything, Maresy Dotes." "I know just what we should do," she said gently, taking the map from their hands. Shortly, they were floating through the It's a Small World boat ride, something Mary hadn't done since she was Brendan's age. But it was still the same, and that was comforting. The cool and the dark were as soothing as she remembered, and she still loved all the smiling animatronic faces that never changed. There was something reassuring about the ride, about Disneyland. She loved being here with the kids, and she'd kept her promise. "Look at that!" Brendan squealed, pointing to a jolly-looking Eskimo family waving from their snow-covered home. Brendan and Ashley probably didn't even remember snow, she realized. And Adam had never seen it at all. The gray and the endless cold from back home were like another world now, like the black and white part of The Wizard of Oz, except Dorothy went back, and Mary never would. Never again. No more snow-covered mountains. It was all 1,000,000 miles away, right where it belonged. From now on, it was going to be nothing but California sunshine and smiling Eskimos and Goofy. "Excuse me, ma'am, please step out," said an attendant, breaking her reverie. "Mommy!" Mary winced in frustration. She had missed out on half the ride, thinking about other things. What was the last part she remembered? The Eskimo family. Snow. Oh, yes, snow. Ma'am, please, others are waiting. Mary looked up at the uniformed worker, who gave her a look of utter politeness. Can we go around again? She asked. He smiled obligingly. Sorry, but we're not allowed to let the people do that. You'll have to get back in line. Let's go, Brendan cried. Come on, Mommy, no scenes, please. All right, Mary said. Her voice was tense, and she was a little embarrassed. She winked to the attendant. Kids, she said conspiratorially, then jogged across the platform to catch up with her crew, her lovies.
Chapter 84.
Lunchtime came quickly, and Mary was terribly disappointed to find she only had $12 in change in her purse. A small pizza and a drink to share were going to have to be it for herself and the kids. There's green stuff on it, Ashley said as Mary set the food on the table. It doesn't taste like anything, she said. She wiped away the flecks of oregano with her napkin. There, all the green's gone. All gone now. It's under the cheese, too. I don't want it, Mommy. I'm hungry. I'm really hungry. Sweetie, this is lunch. There won't be anything else until we get home. I don't care. Ashley? No! Mary took a deep breath and counted to 5. She tried to get control of herself, tried so hard. Look at your brother. He likes it. It's so yummy. Brendan smiled and took another bite, the picture of obedience. Ashley only ducked her chin and completely avoided Mary's eye contact. Mary felt the tension building in her shoulders and neck. Ash, honey, you have to have at least one bite. Ashley, you have to try it. Look at me when I'm speaking to you. Mary knew with all her heart she should just let it go. Not eating was a self-correcting problem. Ashley's problem, not hers. Do you know how much this cost? She said in spite of herself. Do you know what everything costs here at Fantasyland? Brendan tried to intervene. Mommy, don't. Mommy, Mommy. Do you, she pressed, have any idea? I don't care, Ashley fired back. The little bitch, the awful girl. The tension took hold, shooting from her shoulders down into her arms and legs. Mary felt a sharp prickling in her muscles, and then all at once, a release. Ashley didn't want the food? Fine. Just fine. Her hands swept across the table. Mommy! Brendan cried out. Paper plates and slices of pizza slid to the concrete patio floor. The one soda tipped over, its sudsy contents sloshing onto the open stroller where Adam was sitting. His shriek was almost instantaneous. It resonated with Mary's own. Do you see what you've done? Do you? She barely heard any of it. Her voice was like something on the other side of a door, and the door was closed and locked. Oh, this wasn't how it was supposed to be. She and the kids were at Disneyland, for God's sake. This was so wrong, so wrong. Everything she'd worked so hard for was going down the toilet. This was a nightmare. What else could possibly happen to spoil everything?
Chapter 85. If Mary Smith's latest email was to be believed, we were down to 48 hours or less to stop the next homicide. To make the impossible situation even worse, we couldn't be everywhere at once, not even with hundreds of agents and detectives on the case. One lead in particular had emerged, and we were going to run with it. That's all Fred Van Allsburg had told us. I wasn't sure we needed another meeting to discuss it, but I showed up, and now I was glad I did. We'd managed an end run around Maddox Fielding's unofficial closed-door policy at LAPD.